How does someone find themselves homeless in a place like Iowa? It's not a question with a simple answer. At first glance, Iowa might not appear to be a state facing a homelessness crisis. With its vast cornfields, small towns, and peaceful suburbs, it's far removed from the images of tents lining sidewalks or people sleeping in alleyways. However, by 2025, the situation tells a different story. From Des Moines to Iowa City, the number of people lacking stable housing is on the rise. Some people live in their cars. Others bounce between shelters, parks, or vacant buildings. Many face challenges like mental illness, addiction, or a string of unfortunate events. Some are families with children. Others are veterans.
She gave me something, I thought it was Coke, but it wasn't. And then he gave me heroin and I was still sick. And he was like, I think she gave you fentanyl. So then he went and got fentanyl, and then the fentanyl is the only thing that made me not sick. I actually had a 4-bedroom house on the south side, and then I started to use drugs, and I started to smoke crack, and then my money just started going really fast.
And there are also elderly individuals who have simply run out of options. So, why is this happening in one of the heartland states of America? And how are local governments and communities attempting to address it? This episode dives deeper into the faces and facts behind the crisis of homelessness in America. Iowa's story may be quieter than that of New York or Los Angeles, but it's no less significant. Because homelessness is a rising issue in every corner of this nation. And it's clear to me that if nothing changes, the homeless crisis in our country is on track to spiral out of control. The current state of homelessness in Iowa. What does homelessness look like in a state like Iowa, often thought of as stable, rural, and middle class? At first glance, Iowa may not seem like the kind of place grappling with widespread homelessness.
Iowa City has a building here across from the library, and I stay on the back side of that. There's cover, and so I stay there. Yeah, the system moves very slowly, however, so I'm doing it myself.
It lacks the expansive tent cities of Los Angeles or the crowded subways of New York. Yet, beneath the surface, the crisis is growing, and fast. By 2025, the numbers are too significant to ignore. The point-in-time count from January 2025 reported nearly 1,000 people experiencing homelessness in Polk County, which includes Des Moines, Iowa's capital. This marks a 13% increase from the previous year. This rise is more than just a statistical uptick. It's part of a larger trend that's impacting counties statewide. Chronic homelessness, in particular, has surged. These numbers represent the highest levels Polk County has seen in 5 years. Looking at the broader statewide picture, Iowa's homeless population reached an estimated 2,700 individuals in 2024, according to national data from the World Population Review. But perhaps more alarming is the projection by the Iowa Economic Development and Finance Authority, which estimates that nearly 17,000 households in Iowa will face homelessness in 2025. Among those, more than 3,300 are families with children, representing 20% of the projected homeless population. This figure is deeply concerning, especially in a country that prides itself on family values and child welfare. So, what's changed in Iowa, and why is this happening now? One key factor is rising housing costs. While Iowa's rent prices are still lower than the national average, they've been increasing at a rate faster than wages. Even in cities considered affordable, like Des Moines, rent hikes and stagnant wages have made it harder for low-income individuals to make ends meet. At the same time, the housing supply is limited. In many cities, the waiting lists for subsidized housing stretch for months, if not years. Subjectively, it also seems that the character of homelessness in Iowa is shifting. This isn't just an issue affecting men with addiction or mental health struggles, though these remain significant factors. Increasingly, it's affecting seniors on fixed incomes, single mothers, and even working individuals who simply can't afford rent. The crisis has become quieter, hidden in plain sight. People are living in their cars, couch surfing with friends, or silently enduring cold winter nights in makeshift tents. Unlike in larger urban centers, where homelessness is highly visible, Iowa's homeless population is often invisible, dispersed, isolated, and underserved. There's also a growing sense of frustration among service providers. Despite their efforts, the demand is far exceeding their ability to respond. Statewide, shelters are reporting an increase in single mothers with children and young adults with nowhere to go. As more people continue to fall through the cracks each year, the question is becoming more pressing. Is the system truly designed to help, or is it just built to manage? In this context, Iowa mirrors a broader national dilemma. The rise in homelessness challenges the outdated notion that rural or Midwestern states are somehow immune to housing instability. In fact, it demonstrates the opposite. Poverty, inflation, health crises, and policy failures don't stop at state lines. As we explore in this episode of our travel documentary, homelessness in America is no longer confined to large cities. It is quietly spreading into every corner of the nation. Iowa isn't an exception, it's a warning. Iowa Homeless Citizen Stories. One of the most emotional stories from Iowa is that of Kayla Dale and her father, Rex. Kayla, a 23-year-old business development specialist, grew up in a loving adoptive family, unaware of her biological father's whereabouts. At 13, she met Rex for the first time and shared a brief connection. Years later, in early 2025, Kayla's grandmother sent her a photo from the Des Moines Register showing a homeless man on the cover. It was Rex. Kayla had searched for him for years, but had eventually given up hope. Through Joppa Outreach, a local homeless support group, she finally located him living under a bridge. When they reunited, Rex broke down in tears, calling himself a failure, but Kayla reassured him, "I'm not mad or bitter. I know you did it because you care." She reminded him he wasn't alone anymore. Though Rex had spent years in isolation, that moment proved something powerful, that even on the streets, forgotten by society, family can still find you. And for Rex, that meant everything. Another poignant story from Iowa involves a man named Bond, who has been homeless since he was 17. Now 62, Bond has spent his entire adult life without a permanent home, sleeping outside, enduring harsh winters, and suffering from years of neglect. His voice is steady, but filled with sorrow as he describes how an encampment formed after the George Floyd protest. "We were afraid of the police," he said. "We set this up to keep the women and children safe." But instead of receiving help, they're often pushed even further into isolation, increased danger, and here's the thing. Addiction doesn't cause homelessness on its own. More often than not, people fall into it after losing their housing, not before. "I've never had anything," he says, "but I want these people to have homes, food, medical care. We're human beings." Which brings us to a crucial question. Why aren't more treatment available? Statewide, shelters are reporting an increase in single. If addiction is clearly part of the problem, why don't we see more mobile detox units, long-term recovery housing, or mental health professionals actively engaging with people on the streets? Telling people to stop using drugs. In this context, It's about understanding why people start using in the first place and create a way for recovery. The good news? Some programs in Pennsylvania are starting to make changes. Demonstrates the outreach teams in Philly and Pittsburgh are building trust, distributing and offering referrals for detox and rehabilitation services. So, while addiction is a tough aspect of the crisis, it's not an impossible issue to tackle every corner of the nation. Iowa isn't an exception. It's not about blaming individuals. It's about helping them heal. One of the most emotional stories from Iowa is that of Kayla's mother, Rex. Kayla, a 23-year-old business developer. And if we're truly serious about solving the homelessness crisis in America, that's the kind of work that needs more. 3. And shared a brief connection. Years later, what little stability had existed before the pandemic vanished quickly. Food pantries ran out of supplies. Emergency shelters had to reduce their capacity to allow for social distancing. Isolation became even more severe. And in that silence, addiction and mental illness found more room to grow. According to national data, overdoses surged during the first 2 years of COVID-19, particularly among people experiencing homelessness. But when COVID-19 hit, the rug was ripped out from under thousands of families across Pennsylvania and the entire country. Hospitalizations due to overdose and preventable health conditions increased significantly, often impacting people who had nowhere safe to recover afterward. Unemployment was another devastating blow. In just the first 2 months of the pandemic, Iowa processed more than 300,000 new unemployment claims. The wave of job losses hit hardest for low-wage workers who didn't have savings or family support to fall back on. When rent came due, eviction notices followed, and for many, that's how the path to homelessness began. Let's be honest, COVID was a disaster for everyone, but for the most vulnerable, it was more than just a health crisis. It became a housing crisis, a mental health crisis, and a human dignity crisis all at once. And here's the painful truth. While the rest of society slowly began to recover, those who fell into homelessness during the pandemic haven't been so fortunate. In fact, many of them are still there, still waiting, still forgotten. And their story is yet another chapter in the ongoing tragedy of homelessness in America. Addiction and homelessness in Iowa. Why does addiction so often go hand in hand with homelessness? It's a question that calls for both empathy and understanding, and it's especially significant in states like Iowa, where the connection between substance use and housing insecurity becomes more evident with each passing year. To start, let's clear up a common misconception. Addiction is not always the cause of homelessness. In fact, for many people, addiction stems from being homeless. When someone loses their job, their home, and their sense of stability, the stress can be overwhelming. Substance use often begins as a way to cope with cold nights, isolation, or physical pain. Over time, it can grow into a much larger issue. However, viewing addiction as a moral failing only makes the problem worse. What we are truly dealing with is a public health crisis, one that deserves a response rooted in education, treatment, and support. In Iowa, methamphetamine remains one of the most commonly abused substances among the homeless. Data from the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services reveals that meth accounted for 44% of all substances seized by authorities in 2019, a sharp rise from just 21% in 2011. While opioids remain a concern, meth's low cost and long-lasting high have made it particularly pervasive in lower-income and rural areas. But let's be clear. Addiction in Iowa doesn't resemble the TV stereotypes. Many people struggling with substance use are also parents, workers, and community members who have simply lost their footing. Without stable housing, accessing consistent treatment or recovery programs becomes nearly impossible. And without recovery, housing instability continues. It becomes a vicious cycle that's hard to break without intervention. Fortunately, there's progress being made. Iowa's behavioral health services system has been expanding in recent years, improving access to outpatient care, detox services, and medication-assisted treatment. Local nonprofits are also working on housing-first models that provide shelter without requiring sobriety, creating safer spaces where recovery can truly start. Ultimately, the goal should be education, not punishment. When we begin to see addiction as a health issue rather than a crime, we open the door to real solutions. Because if we are ever going to end homelessness in America, we must also address the wounds that prevent healing. How harsh weather impacts the homeless in Iowa. Iowa has a harsh climate, and for those without a home, the weather can be more than just uncomfortable. It can be life-threatening. Each season presents new challenges, and those living on the streets or in cars face the elements in ways most of us can't imagine. Winter is by far the hardest time of year. Temperatures in Iowa can plummet below zero, accompanied by snowstorms and biting winds that make it nearly impossible to stay outside safely. For someone without a roof over their head, a warm jacket or blanket just isn't enough. The risk of frostbite, hypothermia, and other illnesses rises dramatically. Even shelters, which try to accommodate more people during winter months, often reach full capacity. Some individuals are turned away simply because there isn't enough room. Others choose to remain outside, fearing safety concerns, shelter rules, or the loss of their few belongings. But summer doesn't bring relief. Iowa's hot months can be intensely humid, with temperatures regularly exceeding 90 degrees. For the homeless, finding shade or a place to cool down is extremely difficult. In cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, gentrification is only making things worse. However, viewing addiction as without public cooling centers or open libraries, there are very few places to escape the scorching heat. Storms pose another significant danger. Iowa is notorious for its strong winds, sudden downpours, and even tornadoes. While most people can retreat to the safety of their homes when the weather turns bad, the homeless don't always have that option. A storm that lasts only an hour can ruin clothes, food, and sleeping bags, items that are hard to replace. We often forget how much we rely on shelter, not just for comfort, but for survival. The harsh weather in Iowa makes life even more difficult for those already struggling. It serves as a stark reminder of how vulnerable the homeless truly are, and why stable housing isn't just about having four walls. It's about safety, dignity, and the opportunity to rebuild. In the broader discussion about homelessness in America, we must never forget that something as simple as the weather can become a daily battle. The role of social support and community services. When someone becomes homeless, what kind of help is actually available? In Iowa, a variety of services are in place to assist people facing housing insecurity, but access and availability depend on factors like location, funding, and individual needs. Organizations such as Homeward, based in Polk County, play a key role in providing support. Because at the end of the day, you can't end homelessness without giving people homes, not punishment. One core strategy is the Housing First model, which prioritizes providing stable housing before requiring people to meet conditions like sobriety or employment. The reasoning behind this approach is simple but effective. It's easier to address personal challenges when you're not also struggling to survive on the streets. Additionally, Iowa offers transitional housing programs, rapid rehousing efforts, and permanent supportive housing for people with disabilities or chronic conditions. These programs are often paired with wraparound services, including case management, mental health support, and addiction recovery resources to help residents maintain long-term housing stability. Public assistance programs also serve as part of the safety net. SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, helps with food, and Medicaid provides basic health care. Across the state, there are certainly organizations doing the hard work and reach full capacity. In Philadelphia, groups like Project Home and Broad Street Ministry are out there every day. The challenge lies not only in offering these programs, but in ensuring people are aware of them and can access them. These nonprofits, along with local churches and volunteer groups, are often the first and sometimes the only line of defense. That's why outreach teams and street-based caseworkers are so vital. Social support isn't a luxury. For those experiencing homelessness in America, it often makes the difference between staying on the streets and finding a path to stability. When executed effectively, it's not just charity, it's justice. Government and community efforts to address the crisis. Solving homelessness requires more than just good intentions. It requires planning, coordination, and long-term commitment. In Iowa, both state and local governments, along with nonprofit organizations, are beginning to take meaningful steps toward real solutions. While challenges persist, there are reasons to be cautiously optimistic. One of the most ambitious initiatives in recent years is the Blueprint to Reduce Homelessness in Polk County 2025 to 2029. Launched in May 2025, the plan united over 250 community stakeholders, including public officials, nonprofits, health experts, housing developers, and faith groups. The main goal? Still, when you talk to people on the ground, especially those living through homelessness, they'll often say the same thing. In a place where living costs continue to rise, those kinds of delays can make the difference between getting back on your feet or sinking even deeper into crisis. To assist people facing. So, we have to ask, how can we expect to reduce homelessness? People are more likely to remain housed when they receive assistance tailored to their specific needs. Meanwhile, the Polk County Housing Trust Fund has continued to invest in new affordable housing units, and state lawmakers have made adjustments to Iowa's behavioral health service system, expanding access to mental health care in both urban and rural areas. These steps are vital, particularly because many individuals experiencing homelessness are also dealing with trauma, anxiety, or long untreated health issues. Community groups have also played a crucial role. Churches, food pantries, and volunteer organizations provide meals, hygiene kits, and mobile clinics. Their contributions are often underappreciated, but without them, the crisis would be even worse. Are these efforts sufficient? Not yet. However, they signal a shift from merely managing homelessness to actively working to reduce it. If these programs continue to grow and evolve, they could serve as models for other regions in the country facing similar challenges in addressing homelessness in America. Conclusion. Homelessness in Iowa is not just a statistic. It's a reflection of deeper issues that impact the entire nation. From rising housing costs and the ongoing fallout of COVID-19 to addiction, extreme weather, and a strained support system, the crisis continues to evolve in complex ways. There's also the Emergency Solutions Grant. Cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have been using these funds to build transitional housing, fund mental health outreach teams, and provide hygiene kits. Some counties are even experimenting with housing first models, prioritizing getting people into permanent homes before addressing other issues like employment or addiction. It requires long-term investment, public will, and compassion. Most importantly, it requires us to see the homeless not as a problem to be managed, but as individuals to be uplifted. This isn't just Iowa's story. It's part of the broader American story of how we care for one another in difficult times. And in that context, it's up to all of us to ensure that this chapter leads to something better. Because no one should be left outside in the cold invisible and unheard, in a country as wealthy and capable as ours.